the CFTA, honestly, I think for Africans as a whole, is a huge step, I think, forward in terms of us trying to achieve our sort of regional integration agenda. This is something that we've been discussing, about since the early 1960s, right? A united Africa. In theory, it's a really great, I think, topic. But when you start now looking at the actual sort of details, I think that's where we start to see a number of issues. Like they say, the devil is in the detail. So when you take a look at the discussions that have been happening around the CFTA, it really has not been as inclusive as other processes, such as, for example, the TFTA, right? There are a number of stakeholders that are saying we have not been included and involved in these conversations about the CFTA, and how can you not include the people who we are saying will ultimately be the beneficiaries of the CFTA? Largely private sector, right? And so I think one thing that's important to note, though, about private sector is that it's not a homogenous group. Sort of the differing platforms that I've seen where the CFTA has been discussed has really been, the huge MNCs and sort of the large corporates that have been involved in the discussion. And yes, they can benefit, but to be very honest with you, they are least in need of this type of agreement. So when I'm talking about private sector that hasn't been included, I'm talking about particularly not just SMEs, but also micro enterprises. I'm talking about, cross-border traders, right? I'm talking about, farmers, those that actually, most of whom have no idea that we're even having these discussions. Those, I think, are potentially, who might be those who lose from the agreement, but really need to be brought to the table in terms of the discussion, so we can actually see, if we are to implement this, who do we need to protect? How do we need to protect them? Should we even be protecting them, right? And seeing what are the steps we need to take. How do you practically implement that? I think that's been a debate that's been raging for years, because it's almost impossible to say you lost a job, therefore this is what we give you. So I think one of the things that we've seen within the CFTA, is that there are a number of clauses that are supposed to essentially help us to protect certain groups. So for example, the special and differential treatment, the infant industry protection, and also, the provisions for the sensitive and exclusion lists. But there's questions around, do we have the capacity to implement that, right? To make sure that those who do need some of those clauses can benefit from them. But I think also what we need to start doing and thinking is, understanding, for example, that as a country there are certain spaces that may negatively be affected. How can we start thinking about it so that it's not that we want to protect sort of the jobs themselves, but rather the people, the workers, right? So thinking through it in such a way that we're thinking, what capacity do we need to give to the people? To make sure that, they themselves are able to, once sort of, if there is a change that's happening in the economy, are able to really kind of go with the tide, right? So they're able to benefit from the spaces that will open. Because ultimately, if certain spaces close, which is obviously where the losers are, there will be other spaces that open. How can we make sure that, they're able to take advantage of those spaces? What's the role that we can play? Essentially creating a platform so that those whose voices need to be heard are able to, enter into a space where they're able to engage with the people who are actually making these decisions, specifically the policymakers. So as civil society, the question is, what can we do to create an inclusive space, right? So that everybody feels welcomed to be able to participate. But not only that, we need to also, speak to them about the issues that are at hand so that they can give informed opinions, right, into what needs to be taking place within the CFTA agreement. So it's really just our ability to create that space for them to be able to interact and really put their views on the table. If we're able to pull it off, this will be the largest market, in the world, which I think for us is a real sort of, notch in our belt. And I think part of the reason also we've seen so much political, will for this, and part of the reason we're skipping a few processes, before we actually conclude it. So I think that in itself is something I'm particularly positive about, but we cannot forget those, who potentially will be negatively affected. We need to make sure that everyone is part of this process. If we're saying it's supposed to speak to sort of the developmental agenda, if we're saying it needs to be contributing to poverty reduction, if we're saying that it also needs to be a tool for socio-economic growth, those who are most poor, most vulnerable also need to be a part of these discussions to make sure that it is inclusive.